There are wounds in life that break you, and there are wounds that build you. There are wounds that crush your spirit, and there are wounds that save your destiny. The message today is simple but powerful. Not every wound is your enemy. Some wounds are faithful. Some wounds tell the truth. Some wounds push you, correct you, strengthen you, and guide you back to who you were created to be. We spend so much time trying to avoid discomfort, correction, confrontation, and painful seasons, but what the thing that hurt you was actually the thing that helped you? What if the disappointment that broke your heart was actually the very thing that put you back on the right path? What if the wound was not betrayal, but protection? What if the pain wasn't punishment, but preparation? Life has a way of teaching lessons through wounds, lessons that comfort never could. Sometimes the people who love you the most tell you the things that hurt the most. Sometimes the doors that close on you are the very doors that keep you from walking into destruction. Sometimes the failures you cry about are the failures that lead you to a higher version of yourself. Don't curse the wound. Study it, learn from it, grow through it, because the wound might be the most faithful thing in your life right now, faithful to your growth, faithful to your future, faithful to your calling. The truth is, there is purpose in pain and honesty in wounds. Some wounds are not there to destroy you. They are there to reveal the strength you never knew you had. Faithful wounds are painful but purposeful, and this truth becomes clearer the more life unfolds. Pain has a strange way of becoming a teacher that comfort could never be. We all want smooth seasons, easy victories, and gentle roads, but life rarely works that way. Instead, it sends us storms, failures, confrontations, and heartbreaks. These experiences cut deep, sometimes so deep that we wonder if we will ever recover. But as time passes, we begin to realize that wounds are not always signs of destruction. Sometimes they are the birthplace of transformation. The pain that once felt unbearable becomes the very reason for our growth. And the wound we cursed becomes the most honest mentor we ever had. A faithful wound is not the kind that comes from hatred, betrayal, or cruelty. It is the wound that corrects you, redirects you, and forces you to face the truth about yourself, your habits, your surroundings, and your decisions. It is the pain that pushes you toward something better, even when you do not recognize it in the moment. Faithful wounds are purposeful because they carry lessons that survival alone cannot teach. When we walk through life without resistance, we often become blind to areas where we need improvement. Comfort makes us passive, and ease makes us careless. Wounds wake us up. They pull us out of autopilot and force us to examine who we are and what we are becoming. Imagine a person who never faces correction, who never experiences loss, who never receives honest feedback from life or the people around them. That person will walk confidently in the wrong direction and never know why their life is stuck. But the person who allows a faithful wound to do its work becomes stronger, wiser, and more prepared for the challenges ahead. Pain is not pleasant, but it is powerful. It has a way of removing illusions, exposing weaknesses, sharpening judgment, and revealing strength you didn't know existed. Growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone. It happens in the breaking, the stretching, the confronting moments when you are forced to see what you didn't want to face. There are wounds you look back on and realize they saved you. The relationship that ended, the job you lost, the friend who confronted you, the opportunity that fell apart at the time. It felt unfair and painful. But later, those moments became markers of direction. They guided you away from places you didn't belong and toward places you were meant to be. Faithful wounds remove what you thought you needed and replace it with what you truly need. They may strip you for a moment, but they prepare you for a greater capacity. They may humble you, but they also position you. They may hurt your pride, but they protect your purpose. When you are wounded by something faithful, it is usually because there is something in your life that needs addressing. Maybe you needed to let go of a destructive pattern. Maybe you needed to break free from the wrong environment. Maybe you needed to be slowed down before you made a decision that would have cost you your future. Pain has a way of interrupting your rhythm and forcing you to pay attention. Many times we ignore the gentle signs. We overlook the small warnings and we keep pushing toward things that are not good for us. When we refuse to listen to whispers, life sometimes has to speak through wounds, not to destroy us, but to save us. Purposeful pain always has direction behind it. It pushes you toward a version of yourself that you would never reach through comfort. It sharpens your character. It deepens your empathy. It increases your resilience. It strengthens your discipline. It teaches you how to endure. A person who has walked through faithful wounds becomes someone who understands themselves more deeply and sees life with clearer vision. The scar that remains is not a reminder of weakness. It is a symbol of growth. It shows that you went through something that could have broken you, but instead built you. Faithful wounds teach humility because they remind you that you are not invincible, that you have areas that need healing, and that growth is an ongoing process. They also teach gratitude because once you pass through the pain, you realize how much better your life becomes because of it. You recognize that if some things had not fallen apart, your life would not have come together in the way it did. The pain you resisted becomes the blessing you appreciate. The tears you shed become the water that nourishes the seeds of your future. You do not have to enjoy the wound, but you must honor the purpose behind it. When something painful enters your life, instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" begin asking, "What is this trying to teach me?" That question changes everything. It shifts you from being a victim of pain to being a student of purpose. It transforms wounds into wisdom. It turns suffering into strategy. It acknowledges that life is not happening to you. It is happening for you. Faithful wounds do not last forever, but their lessons do. The pain fades, the disappointment heals, the tears dry, but the wisdom remains. And as you continue forward, you will realize that every faithful wound was shaping you, stretching you, and preparing you for the very things you prayed for. Purpose requires refinement, and refinement often comes through pain. But the wound that feels like it is tearing you apart is often the same wound stitching you into someone stronger, wiser, and more capable than you ever imagined. There are moments in life when correction, disappointment, and rejection come crashing into your plans, and the first reaction is often confusion or heartbreak. It feels unfair. It feels personal. It feels like life is working against you. But with time, and sometimes only in hindsight, you begin to understand that what felt like loss was actually protection, and what felt like the end was actually a redirection. The truth is that not every closed door is an attack. Many closed doors are shields. They are placed in your path to keep you from walking into situations, relationships, environments, or decisions that would have damaged you far more deeply than the temporary pain of being denied. When life removes something or someone from your path, it is sometimes the most loving thing it can do. Correction is one of the most uncomfortable forms of faithful wounds because it confronts your pride, your habits, or your hidden blind spots. No one enjoys being told they are wrong, being reminded of their weaknesses, or being pushed to take responsibility. Yet correction is essential for growth. Without it, you repeat the same cycles, make the same mistakes, and stay trapped in the same patterns. Correction protects your future by preventing you from sabotaging it. It holds up a mirror you may not want to face, but absolutely need to. Many times, the correction you resist is the correction that saves you from long-term consequences. The mentor who challenges you, the loved one who speaks hard truth. The moment life forces you to slow down, these experiences create discomfort, but they also prevent destruction. Disappointment works in a similar way. When something you deeply wanted slips out of your hands, it can feel like the universe is against you. You question your worth, your timing, your decisions. Yet disappointment often arrives to protect you from something you're not ready for, something that would harm you, or something that is beneath the level you are destined for. You may think you know what is best for your life, but sometimes the thing you're chasing is too small, too limiting, or too dangerous. Disappointment becomes a divine pause, a necessary interruption. It slows you down so that something greater has space to enter. Many of the things people cry about not receiving eventually become things they thank God they were spared from. The job you didn't get, the relationship that didn't work, the plan that fell apart, all of these can become blessings in disguise once you see where life leads you afterward. Rejection is perhaps the hardest of the three because it strikes at identity. Being rejected can make you feel unwanted, unvalued, or simply not enough. It bruises the ego and stings the heart. But rejection can be one of the most faithful forms of protection. It pushes you away from places where your value would be ignored, your potential would be wasted, or your soul would be wounded. Sometimes the people who rejected you were never meant to carry your future with you. Sometimes the opportunities that closed on you were too small for the magnitude of what you are meant to become. Rejection removes you from what is wrong so you can be positioned for what is right. The pain of rejection can blind you in the moment because all you see is the immediate loss, not the deeper purpose. You do not see the conversations that happen behind closed doors. You do not see the risks you were spared. You do not see the character development you needed before stepping into something larger. You do not see the preparation time that rejection is giving you. What feels like a setback is often a setup. What feels like abandonment is actually alignment. Life will move you out of certain places because staying there would cost you more than leaving ever will. Correction protects your character. Disappointment protects your direction. Rejection protects your destiny. Each of these painful experiences is a form of pruning, and pruning is never pleasant, but it is always purposeful. A tree that is never pruned grows wild, produces weak branches, and carries fruit that cannot last. But a tree that is cut, trimmed, and shaped becomes stronger, healthier, and more fruitful. The same is true in life. The areas where life cuts you are often the areas where you will bear the most fruit later. Many people hold on to things that are hurting them simply because they fear losing them. But sometimes the thing you fear losing is the very thing blocking your growth. Life will not allow you to stay attached to what diminishes you. So it uses rejection and disappointment to remove what you wouldn't release on your own. Pain becomes the force that frees you. It becomes the hand that guides you out of small places and into bigger ones. You won't always understand it at first, but clarity comes with time. When correction, disappointment, or rejection enters your life, don't assume you're being punished. Sometimes you're being protected. Sometimes you're being redirected. Sometimes you're being prepared. Trust the closed doors. Respect the no's. Honor the pauses. Every moment that breaks your heart can become the moment that builds your future if you learn to read the purpose behind the pain. Life does not take from you without giving back something greater: strength, wisdom, direction, or opportunity. And when the right door finally opens, when the right person finally enters, when the right season finally arrives, you will understand why every rejection was necessary and every disappointment was intentional. Growth requires embracing discomfort, and this truth becomes more evident the moment you decide to evolve. Every meaningful transformation in life demands that you step into territory that feels unfamiliar, unsettling, and sometimes painful. Discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is evidence that you are breaking out of an old version of yourself. You cannot expand while staying in the same habits, same thoughts, same routines, and same emotional patterns. Growth asks you to stretch beyond what feels safe, and stretching is never comfortable. Just as muscles grow by tearing and rebuilding stronger, your life grows when you endure the internal stretching that comes with change. The process is rarely easy, but it is always necessary. Many people stay stuck not because they lack potential, but because they avoid discomfort. They fear the awkwardness of starting something new, the vulnerability of making mistakes, the humility of being corrected, and the uncertainty of entering new environments. Comfort becomes a cage that feels warm, but is ultimately limiting. You can only grow to the size of your comfort zone, and if you never step outside it, your life will remain confined within the same walls. Discomfort is the door to every breakthrough, and the people who change their lives are the ones willing to walk through that door, even when fear is screaming from the other side. When you begin to grow, you will inevitably encounter resistance, internal and external. Internally, you may battle thoughts of inadequacy, self-doubt, laziness, or old habits that try to pull you back to what is familiar. Growth exposes everything inside you that needs to be confronted: your excuses, your insecurities, your procrastination, your emotional wounds. It shines a light on parts of you that are easier to ignore when life is comfortable. That exposure feels uncomfortable because it demands honesty, it demands effort, it demands discipline. But it also leads to breakthroughs that cannot come any other way. You cannot heal what you refuse to acknowledge. And discomfort forces you to acknowledge the truth. Externally, growth often challenges your surroundings. Not everyone will support your evolution. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that doesn't grow because that version doesn't challenge them or change the dynamics of your relationship. When you begin to stretch, some people will feel threatened, confused, or even resentful. Discomfort shows up in relationships when you start setting boundaries, valuing yourself, or choosing a different path. You may feel guilt for outgrowing environments that once felt like home, but outgrowing something is a sign of progress, not betrayal. A seed cannot stay in the soil forever. If it refuses to break out of its shell simply because the shell feels familiar, it will die without ever becoming what it was meant to be. Discomfort also appears in moments of transition. Growth often requires letting go before you can receive something new. Letting go of old habits, unproductive routines, toxic relationships, limiting beliefs, or outdated versions of yourself is not easy. Letting go hurts because it creates a space of uncertainty, a space between what was and what will be. That space feels uncomfortable because it lacks clarity. You may not yet see the result of your growth, but you can feel the weight of what you're leaving behind. This in between seasons is often where people give up because they mistake the discomfort of transition for the failure of transformation. But discomfort does not mean you're going in the wrong direction. It means you're moving forward. The unknown is not your enemy. It is the birthplace of your next chapter. Even success brings its own form of discomfort. When you grow, you step into responsibilities you've never carried before. You face opportunities you've never experienced. You enter rooms you once only dreamed of. And with new opportunities come new pressures, expectations, and challenges. But these discomforts are signs of progress. They are proof that you are rising beyond your old limits. Growth will not always feel like confidence. Sometimes it feels like fear, trembling, or uncertainty. But the difference between the successful and the stagnant is not the absence of fear. It is the willingness to move despite it. The truth is that you cannot become who you are meant to be while clinging to the version of you that feels comfortable. Growth asks you to make decisions that stretch your spirit, challenge your thinking, and demand courage. It asks you to learn new skills, develop new habits, and confront old wounds. It asks you to forgive, to discipline yourself, to release control, to trust the process, and to face realities you once ran from. Every step forward will require shedding something that no longer fits. Growth is not an addition of comfort, but an exchange. You give up the familiar to gain the valuable. The people who rise to greatness are not the ones who avoid discomfort. They are the ones who embrace it. They understand that every discomfort is a sign that something inside them is shifting. They know that discomfort is the companion of progress. They understand that the pain of change is temporary, but the cost of staying the same is permanent. And so they welcome discomfort as a partner in their journey, not an enemy. They don't run from challenges, they run toward them. They don't fear the stretch, they expect it. They don't seek an easy path, they seek a meaningful one. When you learn to embrace discomfort, you unlock a new dimension of strength. You discover resilience you didn't know you had. You build confidence not from perfection, but from perseverance. You start to see discomfort not as a barrier, but as a bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. The moment you stop avoiding discomfort, your growth accelerates. You begin evolving at a pace that once felt impossible. Discomfort becomes a signal that you are on the right track, that you are expanding, that you are stepping into new territory. And when you look back later, you will realize that the seasons of greatest discomfort were also the seasons that shaped you the most. They strengthened your character, deepened your insight, sharpened your purpose, and elevated your life in ways comfort never could. Growth requires discomfort, but the reward is transformation. And once you experience the strength that comes from embracing discomfort, you will never again fear the process of change. You will recognize it as the pathway to your destiny.